Welcome to another episode of Behind the Hedge. Today we are going to be talking about software and gym memberships, the parallels between the two, and discussing that the tools and the weights will not move themselves, that you must put in the work if you expect to get the results. Podcast number 2. Software and gym memberships. You must put in the work if you expect results.
So true.
All right, I'm John Richter. I've got Charles Barefoot, our Director of Installation, Josh Cabral, our Director of Design and Estimating. Guys, thanks for taking time to share some thoughts, some insights on our journey with our software system and how we implement it and things. So I figured I'd kick us off with just one. Starting the business 20 years ago and starting up using spreadsheets and different tools and accounting software and all this stuff, finally get to this point of, all right, we got to do something about software. We got too many things moving around. So about 10 years ago is when we implemented our operating software. It's kind of hard to believe how fast time's flown. So we partnered with Integra Software. They are the writers of BOSS. And they have been outstanding industry partners. Really have enjoyed getting to know those guys and how much they've helped our business grow. And also have actually had the opportunity to work with them and other contractors as other business owners have implemented software. And one thing that I have learned, and I've drawn these parallels between implementing a business software and a gym membership, is that there is a ton of excitement around signing up and getting it going, and then what do you do with it? So anyway, maybe we'll have a little fun discussing maybe these parallels. But one thing that I think is when people are looking for these solutions, and whether it be in their personal life, whether it be health and wellness, and then also too with businesses and just an easier path for us to operate, we think that there may be a silver bullet method out there. Man, this is going to be it. This is what's going to help with our success. And sometimes we expect instant results, and that may not always happen when we first sign up. Signing up does not always equal success. So I thought it'd be a cool journey just talking about that. And what does it look like? Another thought that I have before we get into maybe some comparison and contrast is kind of like the New Year's resolution effect. That you want to buy this membership and you do your research and then you finally make the leap and you do it. And there's a little part that feels successful, and there is, because you take that first step. There's maybe this psychological win that you may have, but then it's after you sign up, it's what you're going to put into it and what do you expect to get in return. I also think that there are some similarities between a little bit of the hype and the marketing side, that both a software and a gym will have some different client testimonials, talk about how good it is, what the experience has been like, maybe even some celebrity endorsements or whatever, and just these promises of ROI. But the reality check, just like I said in the very beginning, is that tools here in our businesses, pieces of equipment, and weights, they don't move by themselves. The work can't be done for you. You're going to get what you put into it. What has been your experience? And you have two different perspectives of experience, because Charles, you're on the production end. Josh, you're on the front end, where we're entering things into our system, into our catalog. And then that's going to put out a certain name and material and factor when we're doing estimating. So what does that look like on your end as far as like that effort that goes in on the beginning? Because you're on the front end.
Right.
And then, Charles, you're on the receiving end. So, Josh, since you're putting it in on the front end.
I was like, as much detail as possible I can put it on the front end, I have realized pays off when he takes it over. It's less conversation me and him have to have of what's expected to be done because of the amount of detail that went in to the software, so it translates down the road.
So, in a way, you're slowing down and being thorough, but the slowing down process actually makes us faster.
Yeah.
And then Charles, being on the receiving end of running production, how that detail that goes into it, how does that impact your job? And you actually were here with us before we had an operating software.
That's right.
So, Josh, you came on board. We already had the software in place, and you certainly helped just continue to move it forward and improve. But you were here in the old days of, we had Excel. We were running an electronic work order system. We were using a marketing campaign to send out emails and all these things. So how was that kind of that slowing down to go a little faster? How's that impacted your day?
It helps tremendously to have all the data on the front end of it. It's all there. It's in front of you. It's easy to put like a materials list to get something as simple as that. And back in the day, it might be someone's legal pad.
Yeah.
Like literally, this is what I sold to Miss Smith, or having all that stuff that's just readily available. It's more accurate. It's just much easier to put the job in, do it when you have all the information on the front end. Someone took the time to put it in.
When you were talking about that, it made me think back to an old Excel file, a save as, like we do an improvement and we save as, and then going back and looking for data. And sometimes there's substitution with plant materials, or maybe we make a selection change in hardscape material. And how much did you trust that data in Excel in an old file version? I think we're using the date for the updated version of the file, something crazy like that. Did you trust that data? Is this accurate? Did we update these files versus trusting the data now?
You definitely questioned it. Nowadays, quite honestly, though, we ran into something just a minute ago, honestly, where there was a new drawing put out that we didn't know was there. And I was like, hey, these two don't match. So there still holes, and it's not just the boss itself, but new information that came up that we didn't realize was there. And then, oh, crap, it's there. We have to see, and we have the reliable data for boss now, but back in the day, no. Like, it was like, okay, no, we're starting over. Kind of scenario.
And two, thinking back in the day of like with POs, and this is always one of my favorite stories.
We did POs back then?
No, I think we may have been the Wild West of purchasing. I know we were, because I have actually two stories. You made me think of a second story.
Okay, good.
But this is the before and after of Boss. But we did an install, and we used a Southern azalea. And one of those azaleas in the center of this mass planting had checked out. It died, and we needed to replace it. And we remember that the homeowner chose a different color azalea once we had already gone to contract. I mean, hey, here we go. And then she decided that she wanted to change color. And so we made this change. Everybody knew, but we were like, do y'all remember what color that we got? And we couldn't link it to a PO to go back and see what the original was and what was planted. I think it was like in the middle of July, and there's no hint of a bloom. And so we're going to make this best guess, because here's what the drawing said. We're trying to go back years to find an old receipt, which probably was buried somewhere just fine. And I think one of our guys was like, man, I really believe it was this. And I think I was like, I confirm it. So I'm in the fight too. And we waited, and spring came along, and all of a sudden it was not the right color. And it was the one plant right dead smack in the middle of this mass planting of azaleas. It's not there.
It's like a backwards bullseye.
I know. And so now, with the operating software with Boss, having that PO, knowing when it was purchased, where it was purchased, knowing the exact color, that's been a huge benefit.
Tremendously,
For the production piece of it. Yeah, that was a little side shoot. I guess while off the road talking about funny stories, I know we had a cedar swing that we were installing and building, and I think the cedar package was ordered. I don't think it got cut, but it was ordered. And then someone else said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get this because I know where we are. Production didn't talk with sales, and we ended up with 2 cedar packages. And I think we put it to use, but now with having our software with operating, with purchasing ordering, we know when those materials are taken, they're allocated, and then when they've been purchased. So those two funny stories. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, it was like 10 years ago. Yeah.
I think we finally cut the last piece of cedar like last year. We used it for something random.
Not to be
stored
not
forever.
To disagree, but I think there's still a piece or two out there.
Probably.
Oh man,
we built a job site or something out of it. All right. So those are, I guess, some funny stories and just candid conversation around it. But on some things, what about just the effort that goes in? And going back to you, Josh, you talk about that effort that goes in, and there's a little bit of a kind of that effort gap, if you will, as far as you get what you put in. So what does that effort look like to you? How do you structure that? Because I know there are updates.
Yeah.
Do you set aside some time to say, hey, here, I'm taking these notes and updating and putting that stuff in? What does that effort look like for you?
Like revisions?
Sure. Maybe not revisions, but just kind of improvement to the catalog or improvement to the system or working on the system so it stays efficient.
I feel like a lot of that just comes through like the repetitiveness, constantly being in bids. Normally, I'm adding catalog items as I come across them, but everybody else in the office emails me and I have to go add catalog items. And it does make it, as much as everybody hates a specific catalog item on a PO, a specific catalog item in a job is much better for me, like yellow versus white mason sand.
Yeah.
That we've mixed up several times.
Yeah.
And
that's a really good point, talking about the details, because I feel like we're very detailed about our items. I know there are some other users that kind of want to say, hey, that's a whole lot of effort to put in, and they just put in general items.
Right.
Versus we're naming everything, even down to like even drip irrigation parts. We're naming small parts, but our philosophy is, hey, somebody's going to have to name this at some point in time. Our decision is naming it on the front end. And so what I hear from you is it's just part of your workday where you're taking these items, you're entering in the catalog, it's just part of it. You're not waiting for it to be like, wow, there's this massive buildup. Now I need to schedule time in my day to do these massive catalog updates.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about pricing updates? How are you handling, hey, we got fluctuation in price?
I usually don't go in the catalog too much and adjust price. I usually keep like an Excel sheet on stuff like 57 and 8910 that you're going through often. And the way plant pricing has worked for as soon as I've been here, as soon as I've been in the industry, our plant prices have been so up and down. You price check them basically every quote you get. Every week I'm getting another plant list. Plant prices change all the time.
I think that can be said too for a lot of the items like lumber, for example. It goes up and down.
Yeah. And Charles, what about you, that effort side as far as putting in? What are some of the things that you notice that maybe, hey, I have to set aside time to do these things, or this is just kind of part of a daily rhythm? What does that look like for you?
Going to the POs, making sure that those are cut, utilizing material management is really key, and it pulls it from the job. So you know that, hey, I had 23 yards of topsoil, but I used 10, so I've got 13 left. So being able to track it that way and taking the time to do it versus just picking up the phone, making the call, and then, I'll deal with it on the back end. Be disciplined, be strict, go ahead and cut the PO. That way the materials are accurate on the job.
And I guess also too, just kind of along those efforts, I feel like we do a good job of sharing the workload. I mean, while we have our super user and a backup super user with some admin help, they do a wonderful job of kind of keeping us straight and calling us out. Hey, we got to close these tickets, or hey, there's a PO that's left open and stuff like that. I think part of that shared effort load is like with let's say an Excel file for somebody that may not be on software. It's pretty stagnant. I meant like that document kind of rests with you if somebody's trying to open it up. And I know there are share folders now and stuff a little bit different than where we were operating before, but there's a pretty healthy layer of accountability. I feel like,
especially if there's duplicates, and we keep talking about POs, but it happens. Sometimes they're duplicated. You can see one in there, and we get called out.
Yeah,
clean them up a little bit.
Yeah. And one thing too, as far as like putting in that effort, we hadn't done one in a while, but I know one thing we talk about at Boss is just you got new user training, you have advanced user training. Going back to that gym illustration, in the very beginning, there's this orientation. When if you subscribe to a gym, they'll walk you around. Hey, here are the free weights, and here are the machines, and here's cardio, here's this, that, whatever, kind of showing you all these different tools that you could use. Then once you've been around for a while, you get into your rhythm and you like to go to certain places. And I feel like there are certain pieces of the software that, hey, this is the most important to me. This is where I go. Maybe that's just where it's a little bit easier to operate in. But there's also so much more that can really benefit, and whether that be in reports, whether we're going back to look at things. I know we've used a lot of documentation and stuff like that. So what about the training that we're doing? Is it beneficial when we were doing our listen and learn and sit down and collaborate together as a team and learn? Is that beneficial, our ongoing training we do in-house?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah.
100%. And especially if there's more than one user that's stumbling along and it's a little clunky for them. And there might be one or two, but it's always beneficial to the group to really see, hey, this is how it needs to be put in everyone sees it at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And it's not this one-on-one in someone's office randomly.
Yeah.
You know?
I got tickled because I remember when Jackie was like, she was just frustrated because I think everybody was just working real hard. And she was like, I want you to look, I want you to listen, and I want you to learn. And I was like, oh, that's wonderful. We'll call it an L3 meeting. And so that became because Jackie, she finally just grabbed somebody by the back of the neck and was like, don't say anything, just listen to me. So
I can think of two people that was.
Yeah. But it was really good because of just her desire to want to continue to teach, because she's the one that always gets the questions asked to her, being our super user. And so I think that ongoing training is good. I know it's something we want to get back in rhythm. We were for a while, and that was in the earlier days. And now we've got some advanced users, and everybody can keep their own line. But I almost feel like, man, it's just good to go back and ask those questions. And to your point, Charles, of when we're in a room together, somebody asked the question, then somebody else says, he was brave enough to ask, I'm going to ask. And next thing you know, you got this really good dialogue. You're like, man, I didn't know that did that or linked to this and that.
Well, it's funny. Sometimes people are scared to speak first.
Yeah.
I like to raise my hand and ask the questions.
Well, yeah. So what are maybe some of and along that lines of just putting in some effort and stuff like that, what would y'all say are some pitfalls in your opinion, Josh? What are some of the pitfalls maybe in not learning how to use the software properly? Can you make a mess of it?
Oh, you can easily make a mess of it. If you don't understand what all the boxes actually mean, you can put cost where labor goes, and then it gets all out of whack. In the same way, like if you, in work orders, you can put bid text and invoice text, and when you send it to the customer, they see nothing.
Yeah.
Or in a construction work order, I sent one the other day, and
Yeah.
I was like, I sent a construction work order the other day. Did all the sections, left the verbiage out of one. He's like, where's it at? I forgot to put verbiage in there. So you can't see it.
Yeah. And I guess and what about you, Charles? What are some of would you say common pitfalls could be with the software that you think it'll do this and maybe it doesn't?
Something as simple as like the dashboard. You load it on for load a crew's day out or week out, and you don't have enough crew members on there. It doesn't give them enough hours.
Yeah.
If they're paying attention, they're like, hey, I have half the time to get this done today all of a sudden. It's a small one, but.
Yeah. And just continue to draw on that whole thing about if you go into the gym, maybe you're not an experienced gym goer and you're moving some weight, but you don't have the right form. So now you're not targeting the muscle that you want to move, or either you strain something, you put all this effort in and there's a little in return, versus having a trainer that could show you like, hey, this is how you do it. This is how you're going to get max effort out of it. And it's a big difference between the two. Yeah. And what about some of our, again, thinking about before the software versus now, and this, we start off with these target budgets. We all start jobs. What gets measured gets improved, right?
Yep.
And how beneficial is it and helpful when we have the known man hour, we have our known material cost, we have these reports and this, how beneficial is that for the next job or for the current job that we're on?
I was like, that calculator feature, when you click and it shows you how we're doing, what was cost, like that is very beneficial. And POs, the way they have to receive them, the way they get entered and all that. And all that record keeping makes a full circle, because all what they're doing on their back end, I'm looking at on my front end, and turns into what they're having to do every day.
Some of the data collected too, you can see how one crew will perform versus another. It could be the same task, but hey, this crew took a day or two longer, and it insert whatever reason.
Right.
So being able to track that data is pretty.
And two, we're not only being able to track data for like different, I'd say a crew member or a team, but like the different section that we have for these jobs, these different tickets, we can really find out where we're performing well, where we're underperforming. Same way with materials and tracking subs. It's amazing how it dissects the work for you and be able to see. And I think that's a big area of improvement for us to be able to really hone in on those numbers and dial it in. I know that Jackie's built some incredible reports for us, and then shame on us for not always using those and having a good thorough review. Sometimes we're excited to get on to the next one.
Yeah.
The next adventure.
Yeah.
And then I think that there's also maybe another common pitfall that when you start out, you expect these immediate results. And again, that's just not the case. 1 week of a good diet and 1 week of going to the gym, you're not going to see a whole lot. And I've told a lot of people, my shared experience was, our first year was all about learning the software. The second year was reviewing and really getting things dialed in. Now we've collected 2 years of data. And the third year is when we really saw, I think, tremendous impact. It was kind of like, wow. And it took the emotion out of the number. And then it was just kind of, here's the reality. I mean, either we won or we lost. It's pretty straightforward. Y'all see the parallels in that as far as just there's a little delayed gratification in the work that's put in?
Yeah. And even going to the gym, relating that to it, golly, a week, a year, it's amazing. My journey, I still see improvement, and it's amazing the small changes you can make, tweaks here and there, whether it be form or, hey, am I checking this box off right?
Yeah.
Am I putting where this material went exactly?
Yeah. Jackie may say no, but
she might.
It's okay.
As long as the tickets are in.
Yeah. That's right. Get those things in. Again, doing the work, right?
That's right.
You got to do the work. You got to get the rep in. And I think the other thing too is just as far as approaching it and having this mindset of truly committing to it and being very consistent. Again, this front end, because you have such two different perspectives, there's a lot to be said for how we're putting data into the software. We've developed our own SOPs, but what about that consistency of entering data the right way between different users?
Definitely when it comes to bids, you want to make sure that it doesn't, like a quote is not going to look different from a different person in the office. So make sure you're using the same items, the same verbiage, a lot of it's set up in templates and all that from 10 years of having it now. But I think that's a big portion of just making sure you're using the same across the board, which I think we're pretty good at.
Yeah, and I like how I know specifically with Boss, there's a lot of customization that we're allowed to do.
Yeah.
We can get in and just the way that our presentations look, and whether that be with a maintenance contract or a work order, with our construction work orders for landscape install, we've tailored that to fit how we want it to look. Then the data that's coming out, the naming using genus species name and common name and our units and all those things are consistent no matter who's bidding it. So it produces some really good consistency across the board, and to having our rates of production in there, add some consistency to our pricing, which is good. But then, Charles, that carries over to you. That data, the forms, it's consistent with your guys. And so what are some of those things that help you with the consistency just from your day-to-day? You mentioned the dashboard and these work orders and stuff. Does it provide some framework and structure for your day?
It does. And I can't help but think of materials that we'll get that'll, let's say like a roll of sock pipe comes in a 100-foot roll, that there might be 55 feet in there. We have to know we have to buy an entire roll, only 55 feet go to the job. Being consistent with how it's put in every single time, like how French drains are put in, it's these three main materials every single time. And if one of them's missing, hey, something's afoot. Why is this missing?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that it goes back to a little bit of training, but also too with just our commitment and the consistency, just whether it be some onboarding, some training that we have. I mean, I feel like through our SOPs that we wrote that are specific to how do we do business, how it applies to the software, that's really been beneficial. That we have our binders that we're all doing it the exact same way, that we don't have guys that are taking a shortcut here or there. So I think that's really been big for our consistency, and then training. And then I've even seen you guys training somebody else. So that's really big too, that we just don't rest on one person being the trainer, but other guys are training just because we do it the same way with our SOPs. But so what about some of the accountability and support pieces of it when you have, maybe it's a question and they come to it just like in the gym, hey, there's a trainer and hey, I may need some help on that. Is it an easy ask? Does it help move things along a little faster, being able to have somebody to kind of lean on to do some training, having our super user?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially if I forget how to do something within Boss.
Yes.
Like I live in the construction work order world. Josh most of the time does too. So the work order world's just slightly different. So going up to that super user, getting some clarity on how something should be put in is a breath of fresh air. Yeah. And I'm not sitting there guessing and just pecking away at the keyboard to figure it out.
Yeah.
Take the time and get it resolved.
Yeah, that's good to have an internal champion, or kind of a couple of them that can.
I was gonna say, it's like I feel like I land on the more of teaching others than I do being taught much. It's more of reading notes from release notes and all the updates that come out when people start freaking out about a new dashboard again.
Yeah.
Still haven't fully figured that one out. Just
It's crazy too, because Charles taught me when I started.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a
And
bit.
now contracts are I don't know how to do a contract,
Yeah.
but work orders and construction work orders, I'm pretty
Yeah.
confident with.
Yeah, you're dialed down on those for sure. Man, I feel like we've covered a good amount of ground, and just the usability. As far as just wrapping up, final thoughts. What are some of the best things about it? What are some of the most challenging things about just software in general?
I'd say the best thing about it is efficiency, how easy it is to replicate. That's probably the easiest thing. And pitfalls is, I guess, like, to me, I want it to be able to pull web prices for plants and all that, so I don't have to input all that information. But that's probably a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah. The cool thing is that's some of the new development that's
New development
on the horizon.
Definitely in the takeoff software going back and forth, be nice too. But
Yeah. Charles, what about you? The best things, and maybe not specifically at the software itself, just what we had, what we went from to currently what we have. What's some of your biggest takeaways?
Just being able to actually accurately review a job, see how it went, get with the guys and say, this is how we can improve. This is what I've noticed. Spend a lot of time here and not so much here. That could be a result of whoever did the time for that day.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
sometimes it's not.
Right.
But back in the day, there was no way to really track that other than we worked here from this week to this week. But was there any time spent going anywhere else? Sure.
Yeah.
We didn't. And GPS helps with that
yeah, I
too.
was gonna say.
Right. Yeah. I would think that kind of some of the key takeaways are, number one, if you want success, we've been talking about this parallel with the gym membership and then running your software. Also, too, link it to, it's like a piece of equipment that we buy. And this is one thing that I find a little bit of humor in, is we all get really excited when that new equipment, that new skid steer gets delivered, or whether it be a mini skid or whether it be a brand new mower, whatever the equipment is. Man, guys are excited. They put the training in, the effort, and there's maintenance, the upkeep. We really take care of our equipment. And sometimes we want to shortchange software, and I feel like it's the exact same. I mean, there's the newness, then there's the training, then there's the maintenance, there's the upkeep, and then learning how to become a more efficient operator. And the more time, the more reps, just watching some of our guys operate a skid steer, I'm just like, man, super impressed with just how smooth and effortless, it is. Watching guys doing our maintenance and mowing, they've been doing it a while and it's just so efficient. Same way with software, you've got to learn it. You've got to get the rep in, right? And so there's something to be said about the commitment level to it, and then also to the continued learning. I know for Balls particularly is constantly updating and coming out with new features. We just recently got a new dashboard, and how we enter that, there's some new training around that, but it's improving and growing every single day.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. But I think it just ultimately it boils down to effort and desired effort. We really want to get maximum value out of our investment. But I also think that there's a call to action. I think that there's some guilt in maybe signing up and falling off. Maybe there are some people out there that have made this commitment to jump into a software, and then they're really wrestling and they're really stuck. And sometimes you got to renew that commitment and say, hey, I'm going to get back on the horse. I'm really going to go. So I encourage you to get back on the horse, get after it, and stay committed. And then also too, whether it's business or whether it be fitness, I mean, the only way to get the true value is by putting in the work. You just can't sign up and let it sit.
It's true.
You got to go. It's not going to do it itself.
No, it's not.
So, all right. Any closing comments, Josh?
I don't have anything.
All right. Charles?
Just put in the work.
Put in the work.
Yeah, that's it. Put
Let's
in the
go.
work. One corner, one turn, man.
There you go. Well, all right. Another episode of Behind the Hedge. So, guys, appreciate it.
Yeah, it was good.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care. Thank you for tuning in today. We truly appreciate you being a part of this journey with us. We're here to share our experiences, learn as we go, with a goal to improve each day, one step at a time, just like many of you. If there's ever anything you need help with, don't hesitate to reach out. We're always here to help and support in any way we can. And hey, if you found value in this episode, don't forget to like, follow, and share the podcast with someone who may need to hear it too. It really helps us grow and reach more folks on this path. Until next time, take care and keep moving forward.